Today I'm chatting with Marty Mulhall, who has played rugby for Lansdowne Saracens and Northampton Saints, and recently did an Ironman triathlon, which is a 3.9k swim, then onto the bike for 180 kilometers, and get off the bike and finish with a marathon, 42.2 kilometers. So no mean feat. But let's start with the rugby, Marty. So when did you decide to start taking that seriously?
Um, I think when I was growing up, about 15, 16, it was early days when you get into the Leinster Sub Academy and all that, and you get like you're told it's very rough, it's cutthroat, and only a certain percentage get through. And just 16, I was eager to try and get something out of it, and it just kept pushing me on to try and get. I just had it in my head to try and go pro and sort of see how far you can push it. And it was just from then, I'd say 16, I think, when you start getting into the senior cup and everyone starts getting bigger and it starts getting more exciting, and it just sort of spurred me on and just kept pushing.
So you got into like Leinster underage something, yeah, around 16ish.
Yeah, well, I think I started at like under 18s and then went 18s, 19s, 20s, sub academy. Didn't make it to the academy, but that's close. But it sort of kept that drive or hunger going when you're in there.
And how was that when you didn't get into the academy? So the idea was, I said, yeah, wanted to be a professional rugby player, and how was that setback?
It was definitely a learning curve. Like you work so hard and you're playing against what, seven or eight props are all fighting for two, three positions, and it's definitely for that age. You're like, it's a lot to take in, and like you sort of figure out what you do. Like I was luckily I had Lansdowne to sort of fall back on and just put all my heart and soul into that, and then I had I think I had a good year 2018 with Mike Ruddock, and he put me under his wing and sort of gave me tips and what to do and stuff like that along that line, and really helped me push through into. He actually got me a injury cover trial over at Ospreys for like a week, which was just a bit of an eye open into professional rugby, and it really just got me going from there.
And so, was that after Mike went to the Ospreys himself and he brought you over for a week?
Yeah, I think it was 28, 2019, 2018, 2020. I think 2020, and it was he'd actually just left Lansdowne mid-season to the. He was brought in for can't remember what role he was brought under, but I was like figuring out what I wanted to do, had nowhere to go, and then sort of I was even looking at just giving up rugby because I had no really real idea. I was just doing construction on the side while playing for Lansdowne and and uni, but it was a bit all over the place. And then um, that was like I got a little phone call off him. He was like, "Oh, there's a shot here," and I gave it a go. And then like it didn't pan out where I got like a game or anything, but I just got in the system, got to do a week with Ospreys and like do lineouts with Alun Wyn and all that. It was a bit of a like for a kid who wanted to give up. Then it really spurred me on to push on.
Yeah, class. And what was it? Yeah, what was it about that week? What was, when you say it was eye opening, what about it was?
Well, like I'd never until then I'd always been with just Leinster or Lansdowne, and it was or just everything and like then next thing you know, I get a call. I think it was like during December Christmas time, and it was I was like, okay, go head over to Swansea. Never been to like I went to Swansea once for a Lansdowne tour, which is it's a fun weekend, but you don't really see much. And then I go over there for the first time properly over Christmas time to help go over there as injury cover. And it was just seeing the professional setup from a different club, how they do things, and like different players from different countries. I was chatting to, I think it was the lad I was living with in the flat apartment flats, Marvin Ori or something. He's playing South Africa now. Great gent, absolute legend. And he sort of like gave me little tips and like advice coming over and to new places and all that. So it was a lot of learning. It was a proper just I'm out on my own, sort of see what I can do.
Yeah. And where did it go from there then? You spent that week there, and what happened then after that?
So from that, I went back to Lansdowne for the next, maybe because it was sort of COVID was just starting then, I think, around that time, and I was just playing for Lansdowne, and then when everything started locking up, um, I was looking at I was getting in contact with Tom Beattie. He's Mike's friend. He owns a sport agency, and I was getting in contact with him, looking at trying to get my name out there, looking at clubs, sending the sports um, references around and videos, and sort of delving into that. And yeah, I got on to where was it? Yeah, he told me there's a good shot if you go to Swansea and join the university there. You could get into the BUCS squad, and then from that, you could get looked at by other clubs. And like us over in Lansdowne, not much options were coming my way. So I decided, yeah, I'll see. So just decided to hop on a 1 year master's and do a business degree, which from hindsight, I probably should have taken a 2 year one, but it was a lot. But all in all, it's good crack at the same time. But yeah, I went over to Swansea then and did a year over there, which was like completely different atmosphere. Doing university rugby over in UK is just it's crazy. Like the fans are like they're all drunken idiots, but like they love you. And yeah, it was really fun just playing that for a bit. Completely new people, and sort of get into just getting into rugby again because I was coming back from COVID, so it was sort of just nothing, and now full time rugby. Well, it was sort of full time rugby with Swansea, and then just playing in the BUCS league there. I got a mention from Pat and saying that the scouts were looking at me, and then I sort of got my head down on trying to play a lot harder and work on a lot more stuff, and it just rolled on from there. And I got next thing you know, I got a message from him and heading over for a little trial run and did like I think it was like over Christmas. I did like a 2-3 week just training with the squad players and all that, and I must have gotten enough look in to get a contract for the next season.
And that's Pat Lam and Bristol Bears.
Yeah, yeah. So it was good.
Yeah, good stuff. So you're over playing, yeah, that BUCS uni rugby. And what was that like? Was that like week in, week out, and you're playing against Hartlepool and Durham University and
Yeah,
those types?
yeah. So you do you play nearly every Wednesday, and you're sort of going up to Loughborough, Bath, Hartbury, sort of the main universities all over UK, um, which is it's good. It's like it's just like it's very similar to the championship, just like university level. So it's like if you're going into the champ, it's a good like stepping stone of like getting used to traveling 4 or 5 hours on a bus and getting around that way. Um, and then like you're also playing week in week out, which is it's a great learning curve.
Yeah. And how are things then at Bristol? So you played the year, or you're halfway through the year, was coming to Christmas, and Pat Lam gave you a call and said, "We're looking at you." Was that it? And then you went in for the 2 or 3 week trial and then signed the following year?
Yeah, he said it was a bit, can't remember exactly, but it was coming up, and spent, I think it was like maybe a month over Christmas time, and then it went well over there, and we just sort of, yeah, he got me onto this preseason program and all that, and he sort of start filling in the contracts to go with it, and but I think before that even happened, that's when I got picked up by Saris, and they wanted me over as injury cover for a game, one of the Prem Cup, and it was sort of, they had to make sure it was okay with Bristol before, in case, just for contract reasons. But it was, yeah, it sort of went. Saracens came in for a bit, and that really gave me the bit of experience as well as a bit of confidence going into the season with Bristol. So
Class. And then so Saracens was one or two games, wasn't it?
it was one game with Saracens, and yeah, that was like a very quick. Like I was up there for 2 3 days, came back to Swansea to normal life, which was, it was very funny. Just gone for 2 2 3 days to be a pro rugby player and then back down to university. It's good stories.
Yeah. And what was that environment like?
It was, you could tell like they're a top notch team. Just like, when Owen Farrell was there and all them, like he'd do a huddle or something and everyone listens, and it's real, very very welcoming as well. Like everyone's there to have a chat with you, shake your hand and all that, which was, it's nice, good, great environment to be in, especially when you.
Yeah. And then, yeah, going into Bristol, what was the preseason like? So you'd signed a 1 year deal and then rocked up in June.
Yeah, I think I rocked up a bit early because we had to sort out accommodation and all that. But yeah, it was. I was like taking it right. I just got to train. So I was like going to. Well, I was back home for a bit, and I was going to all the sort of local gyms and local rugby clubs, and just doing. They give me like fitness stuff to do, and I'd do that. But then I'd also like try and figure out ways of doing extra fitness, just to, in my head, I was like, oh, if I get super fit, that'll make it easier. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't make it easier. especially when you're a prop. I don't know. I just felt like preseason is just tough, especially when you hit up like above 120. Running around in the heat is not fun. But yeah, get into it.
Yeah. And like we chatted before, you you got up to what, like high 120s?
Yeah, I'd say at my, yeah, I've probably been in 130 at some stage for a bit. Definitely packed on a few pounds. It was mostly muscle, I hope.
Yeah. And then, like, you've done an Ironman, we'll get into that, but like, what are you walking around at now?
Now I'm 98, 100, so it's a lot off the shoulders, but at the same time, back I was purposely eating to be that weight for the reason of being a prop, and because I'd play sometimes at 118, 119 seems to be like match day weight for me, and then that'd be like in season 118 would be a nice weight for me where I'm able to move enough, but also have a bit of weight behind me. But it was definitely a change up when I dropped it all. But it was sort of, I didn't need to be heavy, so that was when I just started aiming to lose it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know the feeling. Like I used to be 12 kilos heavier. I'm about 90, probably 96 now as well. I was about 109 maybe at one point. But it, for you, did it feel like it was unnatural for you at the time? Like being 124, 5, doing preseason, like carrying that body around and eating three dinners a night to get there. Did it feel unnatural?
Not really, because I've been doing it for like 5, 6 years anyway. Because I'd say I was about 120 when I was 18, and I sort of just jumped up and down around that range, 120, 125, for like 4 or 5 years, because like with playing with Lansdowne and all that going up, and with Leinster, you train hard and you sort of you eat that way, and you just end up sort of carrying on that habit for a year, and it's like you don't even realize it. Then you're eating like 7 or 8 thousand calories a day, not even blinking, and it when you need to lose it, you figure out, oh, it's actually quite easy. You just have to change a few things. So
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I found it quite easy when I decided to lose the weight as well. Like after stop playing, you just stop eating so much food. You just like you continue the normal training and you just like eat half as much,
yeah, like
and it falls off you.
yeah, especially when you're like doing endurance training. That's when it really just starts to burn, because like normally if you're doing rugby or just lifting weights, it's just like you're not burning as much. You think you are, like you're sweating loads or you're out of breath, but like normally in the gym you'd barely burn like 500, 1,000 calories. It'd be a very tough workout. While if you go on a 10K, 15K run, it's easy 1,000, 2,000 calories. So just you keep doing that, you definitely lose weight, no matter how much you eat.
Yeah, yeah, 100% fall off you. And so going back to rugby, the year at Bristol, how did that go?
It was like the big thing was just a learning curve, like going from getting used to being in a university setup to going into full time pros with people you've looked up to in rugby, and you're like, this is the big leagues here, and like trying to get your name in, and um, sort of get to know people as well. It was a real good learning curve and a challenge all the same. I was also like just finishing off my thesis, so I think I've interviewed you for a bit, and so I was like in the middle of preseason, worrying about all like when you there's a lot of calls you need to know for like system plays and lineouts, and I was also having to learn that on top of doing my thesis. So it was that preseason was hell, but like you get through it. But I definitely fell down a few times because of just sheer pressure of everything going on. But it was it was what I thought a preseason would be. Just like you get worked hard, but you see the results because you're getting like PBs week on week out, and you're just getting fitter and fitter. Even though I was like staying the same weight, which was fun to see.
Yeah, what was the schedule like?
Oh, it was. You'd start at like 7 ish. You go in, have your early breakfast, and then do either you probably have a gym in the morning, and then you'd have like a meeting or two, then go have a little snack, and then you'd either be put into groups of like they did a lot of fitness. So as in we do some groups would go off and do swimming in there's a nearby pool, so you do laps in there, or you do like yoga, or like well, it'd be pretty much hot yoga. They turn the heating up in there, and it gets hot and sweaty. But and then you do go on the pitch and do some like skills, handball or hand eye stuff, and you just sort of you do that, and then you'd finish off. You'd have your lunch, then finish off the day. You do like a touch or a tag or that increase the physical contact over the period of the preseason. But you start off doing just light stuff, but lots of running, like, and they build it up. They build it up slowly, so you're like getting ready for contact side of it, which eventually comes. So you start at like 7, finish at like 4:30, around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and you just sort of get home as fast as you can, eat and sleep, and then start it again.
Yeah, I'd say sleep pretty well.
Oh, it's well, actually, Bristol during the summer it gets pretty hot as well. So if you don't have an insulated house, that we obviously didn't have an insulated house, it was absolutely roasted. But yeah, you just put the fan on. You get a nice big fan. You sit in it.
Yeah, and who is the most impressive player at Bristol?
Oh, there's a good few. Um, like most of them are all absolute freaks. Like I know Max Lahiff was a great. He's a good mentor as well. Like giving you little tips and what to do and stuff. But he was outrageous in the gym, and like for a big man, he can run fast and everything. He's just a good man to look up to.
Yeah, I see him posting videos with like serious agility and doing this like heavy skipping rope, and yeah, he's quite a specimen.
Yeah, he does. He does everything under the sun to try and get that one up. Doing like the flow rope, I think, is one thing he was doing a lot. I've got into that now as well. I try a bit of it, but not. I can't do the same flow as he can. But it's sort of something different to do. Keeps you entertained, I guess.
And what is that? That's like a heavy skipping rope, is that it?
Pretty much, yeah. It's like a thicker rope. Well, you can get like thin ones as well, but the heavy ones, yeah, you get it, hit it, you hit your shoulders and your pretty much your whole back pretty well. You feel it, just the weight. So it's like you get into it and you get like a flow, and then just like nearly like meditation, nearly just sort of feeling it, which is good.
Mm. And then at Bristol, rugby wise, like on the grass when you got into the season,
Hmm.
did you like get many games, or was it that season you got loaned out to Northampton? Was that it?
So yeah, I never got. I think I got like one or two preseason games that weren't too big. One was in France. We had a tour to France, played one game there, and then we had like a small one at in house, um, which was my only times in the Bears jersey. But it was like for me, there was a lot of competition, and I just didn't put my hand up enough to get picked really. But I went. I was so if you're with Bristol, you get loaned out if you're not getting game time, which is handy because you get lots of game time then if you're loaned out. But so I was on loan with Hartbury for a good stint of it, where you do like Hartbury training in the morning and then go straight back and finish off your Bristol training. So it ends up being a long day of training. But yeah, I did. I was on loan with Hartbury, and then towards November time, I went on loan to Saints for a month, which was I got I think 3 or 4 caps under there. It was really good. And I lived down there for the month, which was great, nice little experience going down there. And then I sort of got into Coventry for one game, but never got to play because it was a tight game and just one of those games. But Um, within that year, I had an outrageous amount of just swapping over to different clubs and having to say hi to 50 new people every time. And it was like, I look back at it now, I go, oh, it's definitely a rare experience to get to see all these clubs.
Yeah, and that's really challenging, eh? Like, going into new environments, changing environments, like that's so difficult.
Mm. Yeah, it was like you get used to just shaking people's hands and just saying how you doing, even though like you never talk to them again, but stuff like that. But I guess it builds up like being able to just make conversation with some random people you don't know, and sort of works out. You might make friends with someone, you might not, or like I still chat to a few lads who I've met randomly just at a rugby club, so it's good.
Yeah, and so that year you start out at Bristol, you're with Hartbury, you then go to Northampton Saints for 3-4 games. You then back to Bristol and then Coventry, and then at the end of the season, how is that then towards the end of the season? Like say come February, March, what's happening then and how is that?
Well, around that time, that's when they started sort of letting players know. They let players know early if you're getting re-signed and all that. So I got told early on around February-ish time, I think, and it was I was like, okay, so I just sort of weighed up my options from that, and I could have stayed and finished off the season, but then I was like, oh, I'd rather have a crack at Southern Hemisphere. So their season started in March or sometime like that. So I like Pat didn't mind. He was like, "Yeah, go for it." And I finished the contract like a month or two early, and then got my agent Tom Beattie to look at what clubs are on down in Australia, New Zealand. Well, I didn't say New Zealand, but I just had it in my. I just wanted to go to Australia, try rugby down there, and that's when Warringah popped up, and they're looking for a prop. So sort of just pretty much hopped on, took like a week off, and then went straight back down to Australia, and have been there since really. But yeah, it was a very quick transition from that, but um, I think I was just throughout the year, I was just sort of wanting a change and take a break. So it was going down to Australia just seemed to be a logical thing to do.
So even yeah, during that year, so you got the year before you're in the uni comp and you're got a shot with Saracens and a trial at Bristol, and then during that year where you're with signed up with Bristol full time and you're bouncing around those clubs, you were thinking during that time that you're kind of fed up and
Yeah,
not not enjoying it too much.
it was well. I was constantly just reminding myself like I'm pretty much living what my childhood dream was to be a pro rugby player, and it was really I had to keep reminding myself that because it does get tough. Like you're alone in a new country, and you're sort of having to try and make friends and all that, and you're being worked like a dog, really. But it's sort of that's what I was expecting, really, being first year into it, not having done any academy or didn't even have any Irish representative. Well, I did Irish uni, but I wouldn't really count that as a major Irish cap. And it was, yeah, I was like sort of having to say I'm lucky to be here. I got my name in, which was happy to be. But yeah, I guess towards the end of it, I was starting to get a bit fed up with it and sort of getting lots of bangs and bruises. And I was like, oh, I just want to try something different, I guess. You know, when you get to that stage when you just want to change it up, even though like you don't want to quit, but you just want to change up the scenery, I guess. And sunny Australia just seems so much nicer.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, like you say, like that. You're in it, and then yeah, you have to remind yourselves like this is what I wanted to do,
Mm.
and the reality was different to what you thought it would be in a way.
Yeah, it definitely was. Like maybe like, I always think like maybe if I'd lived in the UK and like gotten to know a lot more, it'd be easier. But at the same time, it's probably the same everywhere. People go through the same things, so it's like it's definitely it's not easy. It's not easy to be up there in the ranks, and like there's a reason for not everyone could be a pro rugby player, but it's definitely if you dig deep and you sort of tick all the boxes, then you can definitely get into it. It's just getting that foot in the door. That's someone's told me you have to just get the foot in the door and then see what happens, which is a good one.
Yeah, just get the foot in the door, get an opportunity, and then yeah, work from there.
Yeah, like I feel like I've had a fair few now, and I've taken a few of them, and I missed a few of them, but I think like it was I really enjoyed it. It was a really mental like couple of years, and there's great stories now to had from it. Good mates made sort of thing. So like I'm still young enough to keep doing stuff, but I'm sort of I want to go hard at the other sport now. It's like just a fun little change up a sport and just go hard at it while I can.
So yeah, so you went before we just get into the triathlon stuff. You you went down to the Shute Shield and you played a season there with Warringah in the Shute Shield.
Yeah, that was it was very good. We had a tough season, which probably didn't help, but it was really fun to experience what they do down Southern Hemisphere. Like you be the bit that completely caught me off guard was they play on their 5 meter line, even though like up north you're like it's just you're gonna kick, you're gonna have to run and do a line out. While down here they're like they play from anything. Like they'll if you're on their 5 meter line and they turn the ball over, you just have to run. And then like it's exciting that way. And then when you're yeah, it's different that way. And like the fans and everyone down in Shute Shields, they go really really hard for supporting their local teams. Like it's very funny that the Rats have these fans called the Hillbillies, and they just mob there's like a coliseum nearly of a dirt mound around the pitch, which makes it pretty unique. But the Hillbilly lads on the match day will cover it with people and just be drinking cans and yelling absolute abuse to everyone, which is it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, they get good crowds.
Yeah, I think they get like 2-3 thousand a game on like a normal day, and it was like I didn't expect it really from like coming from playing mostly in the champ. You barely get a couple thousand at a game in a champ game, and then you come down here and there's like a good couple thousand people at like a mid-season game, and you're like, well, it is to be fair, the weather does encourage people to come out a bit more, but it's really fun like to see so many people come up and turn up and support the games.
Yeah, 100%. It makes it really enjoyable to play in, eh? Like when there's that atmosphere.
Yeah, there's definitely a fun atmosphere at it. Like there's all these like little rituals and traditions that they'd have that like coming from Northern Hemisphere. You go, what is that? Or they sort of, but it's good. It's like it's a fun change up. It was what I was trying to find, and like it ended up being the end really, where I just sort of really got done with it. Like few too many concussions, and sort of it just led to me trying to find like an out and just getting onto like sort of getting onto a career really, and not in rugby. So it was yeah, it was a tough learning curve, but at the same time, I had had a good idea what I wanted to do when I got to Australia.
Yeah, and what were some of those rituals that you mentioned?
Oh, let me think. So they do a lot of like I think the fun one was one of um maybe the head coach would like hand out jellies to everyone, and I just noticed it, and it was sort of a bit of like just a way of chatting to everyone, I guess. Just hand out jellies, but can't remember the rest of them. But there was like one like that stood out to me, and I was like, oh, it's good to sort of have a chat, hand out a
That's a
jelly.
good one. Yeah, so have jellies and go hand them around and a way to just break the ice or have a chat.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you mentioned there concussions, so you what picked up a few of those, and then what during the last year with that year at Warringah, you were kind of thinking, um, I think I'm kind of done here with rugby.
yeah, it was looking at because like it didn't help me doing my masters. I did the thesis on like pretty much life after rugby and like how people got there, and 70% of who I interviewed had like a major concussion, or and then having done that I had to like delve into concussion and all that, so I started reading a lot of papers on concussion and it, and I think I just gave myself too much information about it. So then when I started getting head knocks and started like, oh, I'm forgetting to do stuff, and you're like, it sort of started triggering me a little bit. And I was like, oh no, I might be, I might be going a bit too far here. But it was, yeah. So you sort of know when you sort of just know when you're done, when you're not enjoying it, and you just wanted to take a break really, and it was like a mutual end, I guess.
Mm. And did you have any bad ones?
Um, I had one or I'd never like got proper knocked out, but I've always like had one or two at training, and I'd be like, I'd go and get stitches in my head, or I'd be a bit shocked after it. But probably a bit on my side, I'd never call it in. I'd never like take a week off. I'd always go, just shake it off and try and try and get on the team sheet really, because that was the main one. Just try and stay on it on the team sheet, because if you're not on the team sheet, you don't get picked next time and stuff like that. So it was a bit of stupidity on my part, because I'm probably looking back, I should have just called it in and like let people know how like if it was affecting me. But it sort of got a bit out of hand then towards the end, and I just sort of had enough of it, because it was you definitely like you wake up or you're forgetting stuff or your mood's just down. So it's not a nice place to be really.
Mm. Yeah, shocking. And like, I know what you mean in that you, when I look back and started hearing about concussion and how it's not about just being knocked out. Like I had two where I was like brought off the field. Like one I was lying, just ended up lying on my back. Next thing I knew, I was lying on my back and looking at the sky, and the physio was coming over. And then another one where I didn't know where I was, and the teammate in the line out just said, "Oh, put an arm around me," and like walked me off. And then, but like when I look back, the amount of ones where you get a bang and you're a bit disorientated and you just keep playing. And I remember, and I think back, it was probably like, I remember like 20s in Lansdowne and stuff, like a couple of them, especially. And it's no one else's fault, it's just how you be conditioned. But like just I remember like learning, conditioning myself to tell the physio like, oh yeah, it was my neck, or oh yeah, it was my shoulder, and like hold your shoulder. You know, like, I think we all probably do that a bit. It's like you get, you know, you go down and you just physio comes on, and you just go to one knee and just hold your shoulder, and it's like, yeah, no, I'm grand, and then they come on and you are grand by the time they get on 20, 30 seconds later.
Hmm.
But it's, you just, I don't know, get conditioned to just keep playing.
Well, I think it's like you know how bad it is or how bad it can be, so you sort of just trick yourself to go, I'm not that bad. And I guess if you're like, if you don't have like a physical, like you can't see a bone sticking out, depending on your mindset, you're like, I'm fine then. It's yeah, the pretending to do your neck is quite is a pretty classic one where you're like, I just tweak my neck there, don't want, got a stinger.
A stinger,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, a bit of a stinger.
Yeah, that's the one. And then you try
Yeah,
and walk away and you end up falling flat in your face.
yeah, geez. No, thankfully that never happened to me. That I've seen that, you know, you see that people getting up and wobbling off and whatever. But
Yeah.
um, then, so yeah, so Warringah, and just towards the end, and that's coming up to about 12 or 16 months ago, a year and a half ago or so, that
Yeah.
like last kind of, yeah, the seasons are different for Northern Hemisphere people or whatever. But it was about 12, 18 months ago, and you're kind of thinking that you're playing there in the Shute Shield. And so how was that? Like, how was it? Um, because I know myself how it was, but keen to hear your thoughts on, you're there playing Shute Shield, which is another incredibly high level. Like, it's, you know, an incredible level. You've been playing, you've been in a Premiership setup. You're kind of 3 year, you've been playing with Lansdowne before that, one AIL with Lansdowne. Like, you've just been playing very high level for 5 years ish. And obviously, you mentioned it was the dream up until, or from the age of 16 ish, getting into Leinster squad or underage stuff. And how was it then that year in Warringah when you're kind of like starting to sense that this could be the end, like that you could have had enough of this thing that had taken up so much of your life?
Mm. It was like a little bit of came out. I'd been already thinking about it during COVID because when that happened, it was like a little sense in my mind, like, maybe I might. And then this just was like, okay, I've had that time to think about it. And then it was pretty easy actually to sort of let go of it because it was just a lot. I just felt a lot of pressure doing it, and once, like the last couple of games I played, even if we won, I just would have put my head down and I was like, that was shit, or I just had a terrible game, or I just think of all the negatives and multiply them, and then um, like luckily being here, all the like activities you can do on the side, just like that's where I started doing open sea swims. There's like a group, Bold and Beautiful, that do like 1.5 kc swim down at Manly, and I just started doing that on the weekends and getting into a bit of cycling, and then it sort of got a little bit of a fire back, and it sort of rolled on from there. And then once I started, like I have a mate Tyrone who was mad into it, and once I had a look at that, I was like fully keen on just, okay, I've had my time at playing rugby. Um, really good time. Like I'd look back at it and not have any like regrets already. But I was like, okay, I'm only 27. I can still have a decent crack at just being competitive and wanting to do something else. And it was never really, never really had any bad thoughts about it afterwards. It was just a switch over. It was pretty easy. But yeah, like even I have a mate who just finished up as well. I live with, and like for the first like couple of weeks when the next year started, we were like looking at Saturday morning. We're like, this is weird. this is, but you sort of you enjoy it. Then you get to enjoy so much more free time and all that stuff. So it was it was hard for the first bit, but once you get your teeth into something new, it's so that's how I keep myself occupied then. So,
Yeah, so at the end of that season in the Shute Shield, you signed up for an Ironman.
pretty much, it was a half Ironman, so I was going easy on myself, but um, yeah, it was that bit of a daunt. Like if I didn't sign up to it, I wouldn't have done it, or I wouldn't have trained. Like I signed up when I was like 120 kegs, and I was like, oh, I gotta. That was my first mission. I gotta cut that in half. So I lost 10 kilos in like 5 months or something like that, and it was sort of kept on going on from there. But it was, yeah. If, as soon as like this season ended, I'm pretty sure I just looked straight on and just signed up without it, and then it sort of as soon like to me, as soon as you pay for a ticket and you sign up, you have to go. So it's it was a good way of doing it. I sort of forced myself into it.
Yeah, 100%. That's the way to go about it. Yeah, just pull the trigger, and you've no get out of jail, or you can't back out of it then, and they are expensive too, those Ironmans.
Yeah, they don't come pretty cheap. Unless I was in Asia, they have some cheap ones there, but the Ironmans are like they're expensive. But if you look at it in one way, you only do two or three a year, so it's a nice moment to soak it all in and all that. But it's a bit expensive. But hey, you could blow it out on a night out after a rugby game, even. So yeah, it's different ways of looking at it.
True, true, true. And I do. I don't drink anymore, but I do look at things in that way, and it's an investment. Like it is. Yeah, it's an investment. Those things, like you say, and when I look back, like I often rationalize things like that. It's like the amount of money I used to spend on beer
Yeah,
and pizza and waste, the amount of money I used to waste and wouldn't bat an eyelid at it. And these things it's like now, actually, if I'm buying, I read a good bit and like buying books. I remember then I'd look at the price of, 25, 30 quid, whoa, a bit expensive. And it's like, geez, I would have bought a round of drinks for 100 quid, no bother.
yeah. Oh, especially when you get like roped into doing rounds, and then you're like, how many people? I don't know. And then like you next thing you know, you're like, that's 17 people. You still and especially on those nights out when you're like out with a heap of lads and you crush like 15 pints easy, and you're like, oh, poor banking the next morning is not in a good way. It's
Yeah, not in a good way at all. And what's the training then? So you start doing those open sea swims. What is your training week like now, or what was it like leading up to that Ironman? So you sign up. How long a stretch did you give yourself? How far out was the Ironman, and then what was your training like?
so I did for the Ironman. It was around 10 months, I think, 38 weeks, something like that. And like it gradually increases and then drops down like a month beforehand. It's sort of like stepping. But at the peak, I was doing probably 20 to 23 hours a week for about 2, 3 months. Which is like looking back, I was like, Jesus. But like,
That's 20 to 23 hours of training per week
yeah.
on
So
top of your full-time job.
yeah, like one of the big weeks would be like you do an hour, you do Monday, you do like you probably have an easy day, so you just do an hour rehab. I did it. I had like a rest day, but I do an hour of just rehab, so working on my like injuries and stuff like that to prepare. Um, and then Tuesday you go in and do probably like a interval speed session on a bike, and then and then you'd follow up with like an hour gym session. So it'd be like a maybe 2.5 hours session altogether. And then the Wednesday tends to go into a run, and then that's normally an hour, and then you can do sort of a bit of rehab afterwards. I try to keep on top of that for keep my joints happy, but that ended up costing me more time. But I didn't I thought it was worth it in the end. Um, and then so Wednesday and then Thursday is like a swim. So midweek you do lots of intervals and sort of keep just topping up, pushing that speed.
What would an interval be like? So I'm training for an 85k run at in about 4 weeks now, and I'm kind of sussing out myself by reading things and listening to people, experts on podcasts and whatnot. But I know it's different slightly what you're doing. But yeah, I did some intervals. So like hill sprints, like there's a hill next to me, so like 320 meters. So like I'd sprint up, walk back, and just do that 10 times, and that'd be my kind of intervals. But like what, say on the bike, what kind of intervals are you doing before your gym session? What does that day look like?
So it's not quite like that. It's more stepped. So you do like um over the hour 15 minutes, you have like your warm-up period of just zone two, and like that's like going at an easy pace, and then you'd have like um jumps or bursts of like you go zone three, which is a bit harder, and then you go. So say you're doing, if you know what, like 300 watts on a bike, you do like 300 watts and for like 2 minutes, and then you jump to 350 for 2 minutes, and then you go down to 300, and then that'd be like one set, and you do, and then you from after that set you'd have a minute rest of 200 watts, and then you repeat that 5 times, something like that. So then and then like each week you'd build up the wattage. So like you'd end up like after a month you'd be like on 360 for 2-3 minutes, but then that sort of goes into, okay, I can now hold at a higher watt for longer. So it ends up helping you in your long cycles. Then same with running, sort of it like you're pushing that threshold.
Mm. Yeah, and did you suss this all out yourself?
No, because I was new into it. Like I had little bits from doing gym work and S&C and all that, but I use this app called Training Peaks, and it's really helpful. And I wasn't really pushed for getting a coach, or probably might look into it, but Training Peaks is the one that's really helpful. You can get an online coach that pretty much just gives you a program depending on what level you want to pick. You can pick like basic, but and then whatever hours that suits, and you just like for me it was great because it was just planned out until your race day, all your sessions you had to do. So like when you get into the thick of it and your brain isn't working too much, you're just like, I gotta just follow the script, and it works out because it's planned for like progressions and rest periods and all that. All you just have to do is follow the script, and like doing it is the hard part, but it's nice to have that bit covered where you're like, I don't have to write down a session plan each day or prepare for the week. It's just there ready for you, and the hard part's just doing it then. So
Yeah, 100%. I know what you mean. It's like the training is the hard part, but it's not as well. Like I find out runs now. I'm doing 12, 15k runs during the week and then longer ones at the weekend, and it's kind of like you just get out the door and do it. Like once I know, it's like this is like as a, I kind of watched some people who know what they're about, like, and kind of put the training plan together for this run, and it's like when you're kind of confident in the plan, like doing it is actually, it's kind of like hard, but it's kind of not as well.
Yeah, you really get that sense of um, like, oh, once I do it, I'll feel a lot better. Or you sort of like, even, yeah, it's sort of just once you do it, once you start, I feel like once you start, you get that. If you did lots of sports, you have to finish,
Mm.
and you just sort of drag through it to the end, even if you have a shit day. But you just sort of, you get it done, and like having that, like especially I was having to work through three different sports, so a bit of running, cycling, and swimming. So it's nice to just have that program there, and you just sort of follow it, and then you just sort of grind it out to the end, even if it's a bad one.
Yeah, and another mindset that I kind of have been reminded by myself, having signed up to this run, like I I had stopped with concussions about 2.5 years ago, and for 18 months I just had splitting headaches every day and memory loss and all sorts of stuff. But I remember, it's funny when you said like, oh, you interviewed me, it's like, oh, I just barely remember that. But yeah, but I, since getting into this running, and it's kind of like, look, another sport in a way or whatever, a challenge. And with the training, it's like I signed up for this race, and like you probably, it's like you sign up for the race, and then you're like, oh shit, I've I've signed up for that now. It's like, oh, I have to do the work, and the reason you sign up is because you want to do the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you want to do the work, and you sign up to make yourself do the work. And something I kind of like smile to myself on those days when it's like I'm now getting up early, 5 a.m. every day, morning routine, meditate and journal, get out and run for an hour and a half. And then I just kind of say like, oh, this is just what I do. This is just who I am. This is just what I do. Like with that training, instead of just like, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that, you kind of you just relax into it. It's just, oh, this is just what I do.
yeah, you like it's cringy to say, but you get that David Goggins mentality, and like you can, when you're in the thick of it and you're training hard, you completely understand why he's like that, and it's just crazy that he just keeps going and doesn't stop. But the it's a good way to look at it. Just go, like, if you look at it, just try and complete everything and just go positive into it, and you generally get out the end, because it's only a train. Like, if you go for a training, really, all you're doing is going for a bit of a run. So don't overthink it in one way.
Yeah, 100%. And so then going back to your training, so like on a Thursday, you said you swam.
Yeah. So the sweats, you do a swim, and it'd be like intervals. I generally do it in a pool, or there's these rock pools that are very handy. And you hop in, and then you do. So you have like two gym sessions really a week, and you can either have, like, I'd switch it around depending on how I feel, like how the body is on like Wednesday or Thursday, to have a gym session, and then Friday is like a sort of a low day where you're like, you're meant to rest, but you really want to do like a 20-minute tick over on a bike, or just do I generally just try and do as much rehab, or hit the sauna, or I even delved into cryotherapy or hyperbaric chambers. I tried that for a bit as well. Um, so I do that normally on a Friday, just recover as much, because on Saturday is when I go into the brick sessions, which would be a big cycle followed by a run. And like normally, I get into like 5 to 6 hours on the bike, and then you'd have to hop off and go for an hour, 40-minute run afterwards. And like Friday's just literally eating all day, and then just preparing for a Saturday. And then going into Sunday is just like, I didn't have it on my schedule, but I always did a Sunday swim and then a run, and it sort of just flushed out everything from the big Saturday, and that was my week. Really, it was sort of repeat that for nearly 20 weeks.
Yeah, wow. And the Thursday in the pool, how long would that be?
Um, be around an hour. 45 minutes is generally you get a good session done, like especially when you're just doing interval sprints where you're just like you go not max, but you go your zone 4 going fairly decent pace, and you do that for like maybe 5 or 6 sets, and like you're blowing it by the end of it, but it just improves that breathing and your just technique and all that, as well as going fast. So it's good. I've really, just the one thing I really enjoyed was doing the interval swimming, because it got my swimming up big time, just from being able to breathe right and getting used to being out of breath while you're underwater, which is the big one.
What do you mean by that? So, like, I used to swim as a kid when I was like 10, 11, 12. But, you turn your head to the side, isn't that it?
Hmm.
What do you mean? So, like, so that you're not breathing all the time when you need it. You're kind of going for an extra few strokes.
Yeah, because you want to try and be as calm as you can, even though you're trying to push yourself. So you're not like burning up the oxygen, I guess, in you. But it was like at the start, because I was like, I'd done a little bit of swimming and I thought it was all right, but I was like a slow iceberg moving. But um, it was it was good, because you go hard and then you realize how bad or poor your technique is, and it sort of just like makes you slow down a bit, or because you go the same pace going a lot slower, which is in your head that doesn't make sense. But once you sort of get a rhythm or get a better technique, you actually go a lot quicker than what you think you're going, and then you end up not wasting energy, which is the big one for the race, because he's trying to, like, the swim is important, but it's not make or break but it's all about not trying to gas out on the swim. And like if you can manage your swim, then the whole race will be, it feels a lot better.
And so yeah, so you slow down and take it easy when you're starting training. When you're starting your swimming, that's what you did, and just take it easy and just get your strokes right and just get comfortable swimming. Like just get comfortable at it versus trying to go fast.
Yeah, because if you just start, like, you'd see people jump in and they start splashing about. If
Yeah.
you look at it one way, you're just wasting energy. You're just like pushing water in different areas. While like I've seen the online coach would send the videos of swimming and stuff, and it's literally like trying to figure out where you're pushing the water, and you just want to. You're not like trying to force the water. You have to just like flow with the water. It's sort of Zenish like, but be the water.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. And it makes sense as well. Like you want to be as relaxed as possible. I chatted to a guy on here, William Trubridge, who is one of the best deep, what's it called, free divers in the world. And
Jeez.
he dives over 100 meters down into the depths of the ocean on one breath. So, like, takes a breath and then drops down and starts like swimming down, or pulls on a rope. No, swims down and then pulls a rope up. But he said that, all right, that when you're on the top, yeah, you get really relaxed. And it's like when you're swimming down, just, yeah, you're like meditative, the word he used as well, like, just in a meditative state and just like gliding down and using up as little energy as possible and being completely relaxed while obviously you're diving into the depths of the ocean and could die.
It's definitely something you want to keep out your mind.
Yeah, yeah. But I suppose, yeah, the swim, it's kind of like makes sense. The endurance stuff, like the swimming, it's like, yeah, you have to. That's something I've found or finding as well. Like I've said to a few people, like whenever I used to think running, like used to look at people who do endurance stuff, be like, that'll never be me. I can't do that. I'm not built for that. And because the reason being, like, played rugby, but then if ever during the off season I go for a 5K, you sprint for a 5K,
Yeah,
and your body is broken up after it and you don't stretch. But like, whereas I'm fine with the running, it's like, yeah, that zone 2, 148 heart rate or 50, 100, high 40s. And you're just like in this like state where it's just like after a few weeks, I feel like I go all day nearly.
yeah. That's the good part of it. You want to try and like it's weird, but like I'd finish most like the running program running workouts. I'd finish and I wouldn't be out of breath, or I wouldn't be. Well, I'd be sweating, but like I'd finish and go. I just ran 10, 15K, and I feel like I haven't ran. It's like I guess if you were doing sprint work, that's different, but it's just a different anaerobic, aerobic sort of conditioning, and depending on which one you pick. Like,
Yeah. And then, so yeah, getting going back to the training and then it comes up to doing the Ironman. So did you do a half one and then a full one?
yeah, yeah. So I did. I think in November the year before, that was like so. It was like yeah, the rugby season finished in September. Then I signed up for the one in November.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, so it was. I was like, all right, I'm going in. So it was and then after that, I sort of got the taste for it, and I was like, oh yeah, how hard could a full be? And it's like, just do it, and just. But I ended up signing. I was going to do an earlier one, but I'm glad I had a mate doing the one in December, so I was like, I'll push it back a few more weeks, which I'm very grateful for because it was just nice to fully prepare and throw like leave no stone unturned sort of thing going into it, which is good.
Yeah. Give yourself the time to train. Yeah. And how was the day of going to do it? Because like once again, like now that I've started doing training, I feel like it's something I would like to attempt in the future. Or it's something like, but before I remember like that is impossible. Like that, like here in the distance is like 3.9K swim. Like running 3.9K isn't wasn't the easiest for me at one point, like I said. And then 180-kilometer bike ride, like I've never done anything like that, and like that still is mad, like 180K in a bike after that swim is mad, and then run a marathon. Like
Oh, it
how
is
yeah, it's mad. It's mad. Like how are you feeling? How are you feeling on the day, and how did you get through it?
so it's pretty funny because looking back at it, I was like, I'd never done any of that distance coming up to the race, even throughout training, but I just knew I'd done the training, like I'd followed the programs, and because of the type of training it was like real like high intensity, then followed by long runs for time. It wasn't really for distance, and the like I finished the race. Like I was very nervous going into the race, and I definitely made some mistakes just from being nervous, which that's why I'm trying to do another one soon to try and make amends for those mistakes. But you if you do the training right, it's actually the race is actually easy. To be fair, you don't even think about it. But then like if you just do it off if you don't put any effort in, you don't you probably would find it a lot harder. Like I've seen people leaving leaving the place absolutely crippled, like being held off, being carried off, or stuff like that. And you're like, maybe they just didn't put in enough work, really, and you just sort of tune your body to being used to all that pain and suffering, which is you just got to embrace it. Right?
Mm. And during you got to be eating all the time throughout the race, and obviously you can't eat during the swim. Is that right?
You can,
Or can you?
but
How
like,
or how would you?
well, you could. You could have a few gels hidden on your like put it up your sleeve or something, or
Oh, in your for
wetsuit.
in your wetsuit, yeah.
Yeah, like you really like you don't need 3.8K is relatively not that long, and you've fueled up so much beforehand, and you can always like you'd normally like smash a gel or eat a banana before the swim, and like really you like the swim is not going to empty your fuel tank at that stage. Like
Mm,
you are full to the brim of carbs coming out your ears, and it's people do say that, but you just it's only it's only the quick swim is just to sort of prepare you for what's ahead. It's not the hardest. Well, I don't know. I guess I just enjoy swimming. I think, and it's not the worst thing in the world. But um, yeah, I guess the one would be like if you hadn't like take drank enough and you start cramping during the swim, then that would suck. But um, generally, the swim you get that over and done with. Like the training's done. It's just sort of how fast can you do the swim, or like when you get to the cycle or the run, that's when you're like, oh god, can I do this, or will I make it to the end? But the swim, you'd want to like I think you have a cutoff point of like an hour 30 or 2 hours, or you're disqualified. So like it's that, and that's like a pretty good time. If you can't get that, you're pretty like, you got some work to do with swimming then. I did an hour 15. So, oh, yeah, I did an hour 15, which was pretty good. Oh no. Brian, maybe I had an earthquake or something. Mm. What? Man, you shouldn't be eating mushrooms. No, really? You alright? Tell you an earthquake.
Hey, we'll leave it there. And
I'm not sure if it
I'm
was
gonna.
recording my end, but
It was. It was. It was recording. I just started using this new platform or whatever, but